Howdy. Travis from KnowHow here. Today we're doing a deep dive into Magic Search. Magic Search is extremely powerful as long as you know how to use it, kind of like chopsticks. What we're going to do today is ensure that by the end of this video, you know the ins and outs on how to harness all the power of Magic Search's artificial intelligence so you can get instantly connected to the answers that you're looking for. You ready? Let's get started. All right, so you can see that I have my KnowHow open here on my mobile phone, and we're going to ask KnowHow some questions. So there's three categories of Magic Search that we're going to do a deep dive into today. First, we're going to look at the power of asking questions. Yes, it seems basic. You do it all the time, probably. And if not, maybe you should. But we're going to look at how, when you ask questions the way a normal human might ask questions, it unlocks a new level of horsepower in Magic Search. Second, we are going to look at the power of filtering by tags and all the ways that you can narrow in on very specific questions for very specific content. And then third, we're going to deep dive into something we call exact match. Let's get started. All right, so here you can see here are a bunch of questions that I could be asking based on content in my hub. And so let's try this out. Let's say I don't know what category of water loss and aquarium overflowing is. You know, the old way of asking these questions might be like a Google search, right? Like category, water loss, aquarium or something like that. The problem is that Google has taught us to think in keywords, but if you came up to me on the street and said category water loss aquarium, I would think you were nuts. But if you were to say, hey, what category of water loss is an aquarium overflowing? Now all of a sudden you're talking like a human. And it would be much easier for me to answer that question. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to KnowHow like I would talk to a human. What category of water loss is an aquarium overflowing? And because KnowHow uses artificial intelligence based on natural language processing, it's going to understand what you're looking for and then give you an answer based on that. So you can see here, it says an aquarium overflowing is classified as a category 2 gray water loss. It links the process where I can find that answer. So I'm going to dive in, and here is a great robust process that I have in my hub. Get down to step 13, categories of water. Here's the information here. Perfect. Just like that, I didn't have to think in keywords. I didn't have to think what would a normal Google search look like. I just asked the question the way I would ask a supervisor or someone more experienced on the job than me. All right, let's try another example here. I can't remove the toilet. The nuts won't come off. What do I do? This is totally an example of like a frantic text you might send a coworker at like 10 p.m. at night when you can't get a toilet off when you're removing a toilet. And you can see KnowHow has come up with the answer here. If the nuts won't come off, they may be rusted. Use a hacksaw. Of course, when in doubt, use a hacksaw. And then again, it takes you to the process where the example is. What's the takeaway here? The takeaway here is, and you're going to want to sit down for this, talk like a human. If you talk to KnowHow's Magic Search the way that you would talk to another human, it's able to use artificial intelligence to answer that question based on what you're searching for, all the context in your hub. It works like magic. So, step one, ask questions. Step two, deep diving into Magic Search. I want to show you about a thing called filtering by tags. So let's hop over to the Explore page for a second and just a quick reminder of what tags are. So tags are these content areas that you have that shows you all the different categories of content in your hub. This will look different for you, but you might have it organized by equipment, maybe software like PSA or Magic Plan. Maybe you have it based on areas like human resources or service delivery. And you can also have it related to things like specific carriers. So, specific softwares, specific carriers. It's up to you and your team how you organize it. But there's extra power with Magic Search when it comes to filtering by a specific tag. So when you filter by a tag, when you type in a hashtag, what it does is it conducts that normal magic search that we just looked at, but only searches for content that has that tag on it. So this is really powerful when you're, example, working with different carriers, and all these carriers have different restrictions, different things that they want you to do in a specific order at a certain time. And what you and your team can do is just dump all your service level agreements into KnowHow, add a hashtag depending on if you're working with Liberty Mutual or Allstate or anything like that. And then as you have questions based on an Allstate job versus Liberty Mutual, you just add that hashtag. So let's say, for example, I'm on a water loss for an insurance company called Meridian. And what I can do is I can just ask any question that I might have about the specific Meridian SLA. And so what I'm going to do is type hashtag Meridian here. That's going to filter my search by only content that's tagged with Meridian. So now I can ask a question like, how long do I need to show up on site? I phrased that poorly, but basically what I'm asking is, how long after the loss comes in do I need to show up? Great. It found the Meridian SLA here because I had the filter Meridian. And then I just asked a generic question, how long until I need to show up on site? And it didn't find me any answer. It found me the specific Meridian answer. And it brings me to the SLA where I can do a deep dive. I can ask a bunch of follow-up questions specific to this SLA if I want as well. All right, let's go through one more example. Let's say I'm working on a USAA job and a loss comes in at, I don't know, 5:45. And I'm not sure if that qualifies for emergency services hours because, again, every carrier does things a little differently. What I can do is just add a hashtag USAA. That's going to filter and only show processes that have that USAA tag or documents with that tag. Now I can ask any question that I want and only find USAA relevant answers. So in this case, I'll ask, a job came in at 5:45 p.m. Does that qualify as emergency services hours? So again, what KnowHow is going to do is look through all the processes, all the documents, but only find ones that have that USAA tags. So it says a job received after 5:45 qualifies as after hours. Since normal business hours are 8 to 5, ask can be applied. Great. Okay, so I just got my answer. And again, it is going to take me to the document where I can go in depth and ask all the follow-up questions that I want right there. So you can see the power of filtering to allow you to dive in to get specific answers based on carriers, maybe based on equipment that you use, different softwares that you use as well. There's one other advanced trick that I want to show you when it comes to Magic Search to allow you to make the most of finding everything you need and know how as fast as possible. And that's something we call exact match. So KnowHow's AI is extremely powerful when you do what we talked about at the start, just ask normal human questions. But what if you have a very specific thing you're looking for? What if you are looking for a keyword like PSA or Xactimate or things like that? No, for example, PSA in the industry, they have a software called Proven Jobs. Now that is referencing the specific PSA software, but Proven Jobs is also just two words stuck together. And so if I'm looking for something very specific like PSA or Proven Jobs, I can use something called Exact Match. What I'm going to do here is just search Proven Jobs. And KnowHow might be like, what are we talking about? Are you looking for a job that has been proven to be good? And that's because we have two types of search, magic search and exact match. So if you're on mobile, you're going to click this little magic wand up here, and that's going to switch you from magic search to exact match. And by flipping to exact match, we're going to look for this specific keyword that you typed in, proven jobs or Xactimate or PSA. KnowHow we've built out the system in such a way that if you're just searching for a single word like PSA or Xactimate or Cotality or something like that, we're just automatically going to route you to exact match. However, if you're searching for something that's a few different words, but it's specific to the keywords like proven jobs in this example, by clicking up here, you can switch easily between Magic Search and Exact Match to find exactly what you're looking for. What you've seen is KnowHow's Magic Search is extremely powerful at using AI to help connect you and your team with the instant answers that you're looking for. But through some advanced techniques like filtering by tags and exact match, you can increase how fast you get to the answers that you're looking for so that you can work competently and confidently out on the job site or in the office. For more tips and tricks on how to make the most of know how, you know what to do, head to tryknowhow.com. Thanks.